Hello, my name is Hope from the platform of eCnews.org. eCnews is a non-profit organization that provides virtual companion for seniors from age 60 and above. Virtual companion is basically designed to provide emotional support for seniors who feel lonely and isolated from their communities, and this is done remotely through the usage of video chat technology. So today, I want to specially welcome you all to today's book reading section. We have been reading a book from Emecheta titled Second Class Citizen. We are in chapter 2. So we're going to be reading from where we stopped. Listen as I read. So we're in chapter 2. This is chapter 2. So I read from where we stopped. One might think on his evidence that Africans treated their children badly, but to Ada's people and to Ada herself, this was not so at all. It was the custom. Children, especially girls, were taught to be very useful very early in life, and this had its advantages. For instance, Ada learned very early to be responsible for herself. Nobody was interested in her for her own sake. Only in the morning she would fetch, and the housework she would do. And Ada, happy at being given this opportunity of survival, did not waste time thinking about its right or wrong. She had to survive. Time went by quickly, and when she reached the age of 11, people started asking her hand. People started asking her when she was going to leave school. This was an urgent question because the fund for boys' education was running low. Ma was not happy with her new husband, and it was considered time that Ada started making a financial contribution to the family. This terrified Ada. For a time, it seems as if she must give it to save Ma from the humiliation position she found herself in. She hated Ma for marrying again, thinking it was a betrayal of Papa. Betrayal of power. Sometimes she dreamt of marrying early, a rich man who would allow Ma and boy to come and stay with her. That would solve a lot of problems. But the kind of men that she was being pushed to by her clever cousin and Ma's tactful hate were bad and huge, almost as big as her head. Almost as big as her dead pa. Ma had told her that older men took better care of their wives than the young and overeducated ones. But Ada didn't like them. She would never in her life get married to any man, rich or poor, to whom she would have to sell his food or bended nails. She would not consent to live with a husband whom she would have to treat as a master and refer to as sir, even behind his back. She knew that all Igbo women did this, but she wasn't going to. Unfortunately, her obstinacy gained her a very bad reputation. What nobody told her then was that the older men were encouraged to come and talk to her because only they could afford the high bride price. Ma was asking, since, however, she didn't know this. As soon as she saw one of those baddies in his white square trouser, she would burst into native songs about bad old baddies. If that failed to rebel them, she would go to the backyard and burst the best bicycle tires of the suitors. She discovered later this was very bad indeed, because she had since learned that the Nigerian government usually gave the junior clerk in advance for this bicycle. All the all the suitors were doing then was to ask for the advance for their new relic bike, which flashy lights in order to impress Ada, but but the stupid girl refused to be impressed. The number of suitors did start to dine down, though. Maybe word went round that she was a particular girl, for she did look funny in those days. All hair with odd colored hair and a dummy that would have graced any awesome poster. She was subsequently told that they stopped coming because she was cranky and ugly. She did not dispute that she was ugly then, all skin and bone. The thought of her having to leave school at the end of the year worried her so much that she lost weight. She acquired a fantastically anxious look. She acquired a particularly anxious look, the type some insane people have, with eyes as blank as contact lenses. At about this time, something happened that showed her that her dream was just suffering a tiny dent, just a small one, tiny, deep enough to destroy the basic structure. The dream by now assumed an image in her mind. It seemed to take life, to breathe, and to smile kindly at her. The smile of the presence became wide as the headmaster of that school announced the list of available secondary schools which the children would apply for. You are going, you must go, and to one of the very best of schools. Not only are you going, you are going to do well there. Ada heard the presence telling her she heard it so much that she started to smile. The headmaster's voice jolted her back to reality. And what is it about me that you find so funny, Ada, or feeling? Me, sir. Oh, no, sir. I was not laughing. I mean, not smiling, sir. You were not what? You mean I am lying? Well, back her up. Immediately, a group of 3 or 4 tough-looking guys came out from the back row, and the biggest of them all swept Ada on his back, and 2 others held her feet while the headmaster administered the cane to her posterior. The snaring of the cane was so intense that Ada was beyond screaming. To ease the pain, she sank her sharp teeth deep into the back of the poor boy who was backing her. She started to scream loudly, but Ada would not let go, not even when the rowing stopped. The boy wriggled in agony, and so did Ada. All the teachers came to the rescue. Ada's teeth was dug so deep into him that fragments of his flesh were stuck between her teeth. She quickly spat them out and wiped her mouth, looking at them all wide-eyed. You will go to jail for this, the headmaster thundered, and he took the boy into his office for first aid. From that day on, no boy will volunteer to back Ada up anymore. But that incident gave her a nickname which never lived down. The Igbo Tigers. Some of her Yoruba classmates used to ask her what human flesh tastes like, because you Igbos used to eat people, didn't you? Well, Ada didn't know about the cannibalistic tendencies of her tribe. All she knew was that the headmaster king burnt her so much that she felt irrepressible urges to pass the pain to something else. Latifu, the boy who was doing the backing, happened to be the closest victim, so he had to take it. Ada also felt that she was being unjustly punished. She had been smiling at the presents, not the headmaster, and she suspected that the headmaster knew she was telling the truth. He had simply wanted to cane her. That was all. Ada waited for days for the law which the headmaster said was coming to take her to jail. No policemen came for her, so she decided that she had either been forgotten or that her bite of Latifu was not deep enough to merit imprisonment. The thought nagged her, though it nagged her so much that she was tempted to commit another atrocity, this time a really horrible one that nearly sent her not to jail but to her maker. Ada was given 2 shillings to buy a pound of steak from a market called Sandground. She looked at the 2 shilling piece for a very long time. All she needed to take the entrance examination to the school of her dream was 2 shillings. Didn't Jesus say that one should not steal? Well, she was sure there was a place in the Bible where it said that one could be clever as serpent, but as harmless as the dove. Would she be harmful anyone? Would she be harming anybody if she paid for her entrance examination fee with these 2 shillings? Would Jesus condemn her for doing it? For stealing? After all, her cousin could afford the money, though he could not give it to her if she asked for it in the proper way. What was she to do? That was the trouble with Jesus. He never answered you. He never really gave you a sign of what to do in such a tempting situation. Anybody could twist what he said to suit his own interpretation. Then she saw the image again. It was going to be all right. The image was smiling too, so Ada buried the money and went back home in tears without the meat. She was really no good at lying. The wideness in her eyes had a way of betraying her. If only she could have kept her large eyes lowered, it would have been all right. People would have believed her, but she kept staring into their eyes and her face showed her up like a mirror. You are lying, Ada, her cousin's wife said pointedly. Ada opened her mouth but had to close it quickly because no sound came. She knew what was going to happen to her. She did not mind this caning because she knew that anybody who sinned must be punished. What she did not bargain for was the extent of the punishment. Her cousin sent her out with a 3-penny piece to buy the piece of cane called the koboko. It was the one the Hausa used for their horses. There was nothing Ada could do but buy it. Her cousin warned her that he would not stop administering the cane until she told him the truth. That was bad thought, Ada. She had to go to the Methodist Church High School or die. She concentrated her mind on something else. After the burning of the first few strokes, her skin became hardened, and so did her heart. She started to count. When cousin Vincent had counted to 50, he appealed to Ada to cry a little. If only she could cry and beg for mercy, he would let her go. But Ada would not take the bite. She began to see herself as another Marot. She was being punished for what she believed in. Meanwhile, cousin Vincent's anger increased. He caned her widely, all over her body. After 103 strokes, He told Ada that he would never talk to her again, not in this world nor in the world to come. Ada did not mind that. She was, in fact, very happy she had earned that 2 shilling. The headmaster at her school did not believe his ears when Ada told him that she was going to sit for the common entrance examination. He looked at her patriarchal reading body for a very long time, then scrunched his shoulders. One can never tell with you Igbos. You are the greatest mystery the good God has created. So he put her name down. Sometimes the thought that she might not be able to pay the fees crossed her mind, but she did not let that worry her. She had read somewhere that there was some sort of scholarship for the 5 or 2 children who did well in the exam. She was going to complete for one. She was going to compete for one of those places. She was going to complete for one of those places. She was so determined that not even the fact that her number was 947 fighting her. She was going to that school, and that was that. But how was she to tell them at home? She had stopped liking cousin Vincent. Every time she knelt down to pray, she used to tell God to send him to hell. She did not believe in that stuff of loving your enemy. After all, God did not like the devil, so why should she pray for the man who had the heart to cane her for a good 2 hours with a koboko? When cousin Vincent failed his Cambridge school certificate examination, Ada burst out laughing. God had heard her prayers. The entrance examination was to take place on Saturday. That was going to be very difficult. How was she to get away? Another lie. She could not do that again. She would be discovered and they would stop her from taking the examination. So she told her uncle, Miles' brother, that she was going to sit for the examination. The funniest thing was that nobody even asked her where she got the money from. Nobody wanted to know, as long as she was not asking for money from anybody, and as long as she had done her Saturday's job, she could go to the devil for all they cared. Occasionally, the mother of the house, man's sister-in-law, would ask how she proposed to get the money for the school fees and remind her that her father was dead. In response, Ada's mind would flutter with fear, but she never told anybody she was dreaming of winning a scholarship. That was too big an admission for a girl like her to express. So she was aware that nobody was interested in her since Pa's death. Even if she had failed, she would have accepted it as one of the hurdles of life. But she did not fail. She not only passed the entrance examination, but she got a scholarship with full board. She never knew whether she came first or second or even third, but she was one of the best children that year. Since then, she had started to be overwhelmed by the presence. It existed right beside her, just like a champion. It comforted her during the long school holidays when she could not go home because there was no home for her to go to. She was very happy at the Methodist Girls' School, especially during the first 4 years. However, a cloud of indecision started to loom when the school days were coming to an end. It was incredible how quickly 5 years could pass. She would have liked to linger there in the boarding house to sketch each day into a year and each year into a century, but that was impossible. The final day came and she was quite unprepared for life outside. She had come vague plans about what she was going to do. She was going to continue her education. She was going to go to Ibadan University to read classic and to sorry, she she was going to continue her education. She was going to go to Ibadan University to read classic, and she was going to teach at the end of it all. Well, there was one thing she had not bargained for: to read for a degree, to read for the entrance examination, or even for more A levels one needed at home, not just any home where there would be trouble today and fight tomorrow, but a good, quiet atmosphere where she could study in peace. Ada could not find a home like that. In Lagos at that time, teenagers were not allowed to live by themselves, and if the teenager happened to be a girl as well, living alone would be asking for trouble. In short, Ada had to marry. Francis was a very quiet young man who was ready to be an accountant. Ada congratulated herself on her marriage. At least he was not an old badly. Neither was he a made man then, though there was no doubt that he was going to be made one day. To Ada, the greatest advantage was that she could go on studying at her own pace. She got great satisfaction too from the fact that Francis was too poor to pay £500 bride price. Ma and the other members of the family were asking, she was such an expensive bride because she saw college trained, even though none of them had contributed to her education. The anger of her people was so intense that none of them came to her wedding. That wedding itself was a hilarious affair. Francis and Ada were both underage, and the only witness Francis' mother had to sign with her thumb. The whole affair started off on the wrong foot. They had forgotten to buy a ring, and the skinny man with a black bow tie refused to marry them, even when Ada assured him that the piece of string would do until they got home. I have never heard of such a wedding, the man declared, sweating in his tight collar. Please marry us without a ring because, you see, before we can get to Ibutometa, you will have closed for the day. Ada begged. Never mind about that. I just come back tomorrow with a ring and I will marry you. They were married the following day. It was the saddest day in Ada's whole life. She did not mind having to go home in a bus, neither did she mind not marrying in white, which she hated anyway, but still she was sad, very sad, for months after the marriage at the registrar office. Soon, however, things improved. Ada gave birth to a daughter, and she and Francis were both delighted with the baby. Then, after endless interviews and form feelings, Ada was selected to work as a librarian in the American Consulate Library at Campbell Street. The size of her pay packet worried Franz a little, but he had to ask his pa for advice. Do you think our marriage will last if I allowed Ada to go and work for the Americans? Her pay will be 3 times my own. My colleague at work will laugh at me. What do you think I should do? You are a fool of a man. You are. Where will she take the money to? Her people, who did not even come to congratulate her on her arrival of baby Titi. Her relatives, who did not care whether she lived or died. The money is for you. Can't you see? Let her go and work for 1 million Americans and bring her money here into this house. It is your luck. You made a good choice in marrying. sun. So these are going to be ending today's book reading section. Till we meet again in the next one. Thank you so much for your active listening, and bye.